Today we're going to do a video interview of BA Tortuga. Did I say that right?
Yep, Tortuga, just like a Spanish turtle.
Okay, well, nice to get a chance to talk to you. And so why don't we start by you telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Oh, good Lord. I'm newly married. Hooray! I'm a Texan that's just recently moved to New Mexico, and I've written almost 200 books at this point, mostly male, but a lot of menage and het romances as well. So,
200 books.
yep, right out.
Wow. And, well, okay, so since we're talking about how many books you've written, and you've written in different genres, which ones do you like best? Male, male, female, that sort of stuff?
That doesn't matter to me one little bit. I just write what I'm ready to write. I don't really worry about what the pairing is.
Okay. And so just sort of write whatever the story comes to mind.
Yes, sir. I just happen, I'll decide, oh, this is what moves me, and then that's what I write, then hopefully I find a home for it.
All right. So now on your website it says romance and rednecks, fist fights is foreplay. I mean,
Yes.
that's not your standard romance novel. So what drew you to these kind of stories?
Well, the reason I came up with that, everybody tells you, go through all of your stories and find out what it is that is common through everything you write. Well, the one thing that was, or two things that were common in all of my stories is that there's a romance and somebody's going to get their ass kicked.
Oh,
And that comes from being a Texan. we tend to get into trouble.
well, hopefully it's getting their ass kicked in a good way and not ending up in the hospital because they've been gay bashed or something.
No. Usually it's one of my characters knocking the living you know what out of somebody else.
Well, you can use whatever language you want.
Okay.
It's okay. So let's talk about your latest book, which is Say Something. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Maybe
Sorry,
guess.
my dog is running through the yard.
You bringing in a guest appearance today?
I guess Basset Hound.
Okay, so when we're talking about Say Something, let's start talk about it a little bit.
Oh goodness. Say Something damn near broke my heart. It's this story of two men, Mike and Jensen, and they're both from Northeast Texas, where I grew up. And Mike leaves to go to college to become an actor, and Jensen stays. And the story covers almost 20 years of their life together, or not together, as it were, depending on where they are in the story. And really, that's pretty much all I can tell you because I didn't realize it when I was writing, but everything I could tell you about this story is a spoiler because everything happens. Because it's literally the story of these two men in 20 years of their life.
So is this like based on somebody you know, or is it just something that you've wondered like, well, what if?
No, actually, I was listening to some music and I heard there's a song by Kenny Chesney called "Better as a Memory," and I've listened to that song 100 times, and I listened to it and I went, oh, and there was Mike, boom, the full character, and it was just that. I wasn't even looking to write this story, but once I started, it was all over but the crying.
So I'm going to guess that you have a mental image of who Mike and who Jensen is.
Oh, absolutely.
Anybody would recognize, or is this just a mental image that you have that you're going to keep to yourself?
Um, well, if I was going to cast them, I would say that Mike would be like a blonde Matthew McConaughey because, one, tacos. But on the other hand, I mean, that's not what Mike looks like, but if I was going to pick somebody to play him, that's what he would look like. And with Jensen, he would be Jared Padalecki. Is that how you say his last name?
I don't know who that is.
That little, he's the guy from that Supernatural show, the dark-haired one. He's real tall. I saw a picture of him. He's real pretty, but still kind of, real lean because uh, Jensen is real lean and tall, and he looks like a Texan. He's a cowboy through and through. But again, that's just people I would pick. You know, I never go, okay, this is who this character looks like. They just look like them.
Okay, so when I wrote Purpose, I know that the main character looked like Christopher Lambert in The Highlander. I don't know if you ever saw the first Highlander
Oh,
movie.
oh, yes. Oh, yes, I love that movie.
Exactly. And so that's who I honestly, that's who Will is. So I just wondered, did you ever have like a moment like that when you write your books that, yes, that's your character?
Very, very rarely. That's usually not. In fact, I'm one of those poor people who I've got a little list, and I go, okay, this is the color of hair, and this is the color of eyes. I know what they feel, and I know what they're thinking, but I have to really remind myself all the time. This is what this one looks like, because I don't think about what they are like visually.
Okay. Let me ask you a different question now. Have you ever written a character based on yourself?
No, no, I'm not interesting. Lord, no. That's why I write.
Okay. Have you ever written like friends and family into a story
Oh,
on
Lord,
purpose?
all the time. All the time. Everybody I know is in desperate danger of getting put into a novel. My
And
daddy has appeared in many.
have you warned them ahead of time, or do you just do it and hope they don't find out?
Oh, no, I tell them. Especially if they do something smart ass. I'll tell them, I'm going to put that in a book. I mean, I have sisters, so I have lots and lots of family to put in books.
Okay. Um, so let's talk about when you write books. What's the most fun part for you when you write?
Oh, goodness. I think I love beginnings. I love beginnings, and I'm really fond of an end too. So those are the parts that go fastest for me. Is the very very beginning, and then that end section where there's only 10,000 words, and you're gonna make it all better, and everything's fine. I love that, and I love it when there's nothing happening for a little while, and you can just kind of be funny and coast in the story. Not necessarily with the writing, but it's not so tense.
So no angst, no drama, nobody's getting beat up, nobody's having fist
Oh,
fights for the
I
foreplay.
hate writing the angsty parts. I do it, but I hate it. It makes me cry. I'm one of those, like Kathleen Turner in the movie, The Romancing the Stone, typing and sobbing. That's me. And my wife's going, okay, would you finish now?
So you've actually made yourself cry when you write.
Every time. I'm awful.
Or good. Take your pick. I mean,
Either one, but no, I'm the one who is sitting there writing the sad parts just in hysterics going, oh, okay, I gotta fix it.
okay, so now have you ever had a reader write back to you that some of the sad parts that you were crying over and then they come back and they give you the same reaction that you had out of it? Do you ever get people to write back and tell you that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Although I have to admit, especially early on in my career, something that I would think that was just desperately moving would be not the part that the reader would go, oh, it was, the parts that really tend to get me are the quieter parts instead of the great big emotional blow up part. So uh, a lot of times the parts that make me kind of go, oh, are parts that readers kind of gloss over.
Because now you sort of touched on this because you said you don't really like writing the angsty parts, but what part of the writing process do you struggle with most? I don't mean like editing or marketing. I mean, what part of the writing process, like when you're writing your story, what do you have the most struggle with?
8,000 words. I hit 8,000 words and everything goes to hell. And it takes until about 12,000 words before it's inevitable. I'll be going along and then I hit 8,000 words and I can't figure out what to do. And then I suffer until 12 and I fix it. And I wish I could tell you that I know why, but there's something about my brain that says, "Oh, it's 8,000 words. Fuck you."
So let's go back to say something for a second. Tell us something interesting about the book that wouldn't be in the blurb and that's not a spoiler.
Hmm.
Like, does Jensen wear pink panties? I don't know. I'm just making something up.
No, no. I would say that the most interesting, like a little side thing, would be that Mike was super, super good at being in school, and Jensen is like wicked good at not necessarily math, but like dealing with a budget and dealing with those parts of the ranch life. Making sure he has enough money, making sure he has enough hay, those sorts of things that you don't think are mathematical, but they really are. I mean, Jensen's a working cowboy, so he has a ranch, and that's his whole. That's how he defines himself, and he's super good at that weird, picky stuff that you don't think about when you're thinking about being a cowboy.
Okay, so the operations side of a ranch, running it, and things that are boring but important.
Right. Yeah. The day-to-day normal stuff that that's not going to make it into a romance novel, but that's really what being a ranch person is about.
Okay. And it kind of, we asked this a little bit, but let's try it a different way. What's your most favorite part of the entire process? Not just writing a story, but like the whole, plotting, plot board to writing to editing to marketing. What's your favorite part of the process?
My favorite part is probably that moment where I look at Julia and I say, what if there's this guy who did blah? Because every single story that either one of us has ever had has started with one of us looking at the other and going, what if there was this guy and he did blah? Or what if there was this girl? And that's great because that's our romance. That's where we get to have our romance, is in those moments that nobody ever gets to see, where we get to talk about the whole starting of everything.
So what's your least favorite part then?
That third edit where you're so tired of it that you can't even breathe, and you're going, I never want to see this story or hear these guys' names ever again.
So when you sit there and you say it's good enough for government work.
Yes. Yeah, and then there's the part, because when you put a book out, you've already got another book in edits, and you're writing a book over here, and then you're going, what are these guys' names again? Because, it's been 6 months since you've seen the story at that point.
Well, see, I'm not quite as prolific as you. I don't even know if I have 200 pages. I'm just kidding. I don't have 200 books. So have you ever been in the process of like editing one book and then gotten your characters mixed up with another book you're working on, or you're in editing and you start changing character traits?
All the time. All the time. I'll be sitting there and going, oh, damn it. And I write 4 or 5 stories at a time because I have the attention span of a caffeinated gnat on crack. So, yeah, that happens to me a lot.
So you're like my 3-year-old.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm 5.
Okay. She thinks she's this many, and then she's going to be this many maybe, and then this many. So, but yeah, her birthday was actually yesterday, and Grandma's went crazy.
Oh, happy birthday!
And we'd get to one gift, and she'd want to look at it, and we're like, okay, put that down. We got to go to the next one. And so I understand what you're saying about. I mean, I understand better than I really want to writing 4 or 5 books. Okay,
Aw.
so you said you're doing 4 or 5. So which is let's pick one. Tell us what you're working on now.
Right now, I am writing the sequel to Terms of Release, which is a male, and it'll feature Sage and Win, but they're not going to be the main couple. It's about a trainer and a wounded soldier. I'm working on a blind vampire short and a book for Sirius, which is a paranormal anthology that I write with Julia and then with Sean Michael. One, two, three. And then I am working on my second lesbian YA novel, and I'm missing somebody. And I'm working on the second in a het cowboy romance series that'll be called Mr. Untouchable. And it's also about a wounded warrior. I'm very into wounded soldiers apparently right now.
So do you have like a favorite book or characters that you really want to get back to, or something that you've not really found the right story for?
Oh, well, there are a million rough stock cowboys that I haven't written or haven't had time to write. And right now, I need to write the second book in Coke and Dylan, who are kids, a bullfighter and a rodeo clown. And I'm desperate. I mean, but, there are characters that no matter how far away you are from that book, they immediately wake up and they're just totally there. There's no looking for the voice. There's no who am I, how am I going to do this? They go, oh, would you like, here, we will tell you all of the things, da, 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 and all of a sudden they're off and running. So I need to get to them because they're starting to poke me in my dreams.
Do readers ever badger you so much that you decide to just write the book that they want you to write?
No, no, I'm real stubborn. So that's not a problem.
No, I mean like not write the actual story that they want, but I mean, do they ever badger you enough to say, okay, I want you to get back to these guys, or these are my
Well,
favorite?
they're starting to. I have had a bunch of emails just recently going, rough stock, hello, rodeo cowboys, let's go. So I know that it's time. They're so alive in my head that I forget how long it's been. It's been a year since I put out the last novel in the series, and in my head, they're right there talking to me all the time. I don't have to worry about it. But it's been a year. Did you realize it was time? It's September. I was like, oh, right. I'm on that. It's no problem.
Okay, quick detour before I get to the rest of the things we said we were going to talk about. You said you're writing a YA lesbian novel.
I am.
That is probably one of the least represented areas of fiction. Forget LGBT fiction, just fiction in general is lesbian fiction. How does that like lack of material affect your decision what to write?
Well, it's funny because I had no intention of ever writing a YA novel, and I've written quite a bit of lesbian fiction. But Andrew Gray came up to me and said, I want you to write a YA novel. And I said, well, honey, I don't do that. And he said, tell me the story of how your coming out should have been. And I went, oh, you son of a bitch. And 4 months later, I turned in my first novel, which is still in for submission. And so I didn't really think about it all that much. But then when I started writing it, I went, oh goodness, it's so different and it's so fun. And you get to kind of go back and think about all the things that from when you were a kid that I hadn't thought about in a long time. Like, for instance, I grew up in teeny town, Texas. And when I was a kid, 40 some odd years ago, there were no gay people. They didn't exist. That being a lesbian was not an option. I didn't know that coming out was something that you could do. I got, like everybody else, I got married to a man because, everybody, you sort of thought, well, that's what you have these really great, close relationships with other women. you know? And now I write about it, and kids don't have near that much stigma, and you can kind of go, oh, if I was a kid now, I could date, and it would be cool.
Yeah, I remember those days, kind of. It's been about 40 some odd years for me as well.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to relive some of them with my, I see them all now that we have a 3-year-old. It's like sort of we see all the kids, and it's like I'm glad I'm not that old again.
Yeah, yeah. I think being a teenager is hard, and I can't imagine when yours is a teenager how much. I mean, how fast the world is moving. You know, you think about from when I was a teenager to now. I mean, like for instance, one of the things I had to really add in was texting, because when I was a teenager, you couldn't even do long distance phone calls without your mama getting you.
Right, because it was like $2 a minute or something
Right.
crazy. Kids have
Yes.
no concept of that.
Exactly. And now, everything's automatic and information is everywhere. I mean, like, I was doing a paper, and I thought, man, when I was a teenager, you had to go to the library and you had to look everything up in all these books. And now you just go, okay, here's my smartphone, voila, and when yours is a teenager, I mean,
There'll be chips
damn,
in her,
it's going to be interesting.
there'll be like little chips in her head, and it'll just sort of process. Yeah, it's
Yeah, she'll
that's
just
one
go.
right. That's one of the big things for us is like we're trying to figure out how to stay ahead of the loop. It's like because Mike was saying to his mother yesterday, when she's 5, she's gonna be smarter than both of us. So I don't know how we're gonna keep up with her.
Yeah, you're going to have to work really hard.
So have you ever had any kids call you up, or not right, call you up, but I mean, email you or get in touch with you and say, "Wow, your book really has helped me."
I don't I I don't think so. I started back when I was in publishing and I wasn't just writing. I started a very small GLBTYA that I've since sold, called Prism Books. And I started that because I had kids tell me that they wanted to see themselves in the stories, that it was so hard because in all of the stories they weren't represented. And I think, like I said, I said I would never write YA. I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm an old crusty old broad. But hopefully somebody will read the YAs that I've been writing, and at least appreciate the fact that they could see themselves in a story.
Okay, let's just ask some sort of, I'll say personal questions, but let's call them personal questions. Have you read anything lately that you think other people haven't read that they should?
Huh. Let's see. To be honest, the last book I read was It by Stephen King, and everybody on Earth has read that.
I haven't.
Oh, it's really good. It's an
Okay.
incredibly good book. I would
Okay.
recommend it highly.
Okay, well, let's twist
Go
that a
ahead.
little bit and direct it towards you. Which one of your 200 books do you think has not gotten the attention that you think it should deserve? So give us a book that is really
I
good
know
that
this
people
one.
don't know about.
Redemption's Ride, the name of the book.
Can you say that
Yeah,
again? Sort of.
it's a paranormal old west, and oh, sure, it's the name of the book is Redemption's Ride, and it's a paranormal old west, and it has a lot of religion in in that the story is about a preacher and a hellhound, and I don't shy away from the religion in it, and I think that made a lot of people very uncomfortable, but I think still that it is one of the best books I've ever written, and
And
I
it's
would.
available
I'm
on
sorry.
Amazon. It's available on Amazon. Where else?
It's available at All Romance eBooks. It's available at Barnes and Nobles. It should be pretty much everywhere. It's been around a long time.
Okay. So back to the personal stuff. If you could meet any writer, alive or dead, who would you want to meet?
Shirley Jackson.
Why?
Oh, she's my hero. I am a huge horror fan, and there's just something about, I mean, that's a hard genre to break into, and it's even harder for a woman. And she did it, and she wasn't scared, and she did it in a time when women didn't do that. And she's just one of my heroes.
Okay, so let's flip that a little bit. So you touched on something. There are some women who feel that they have to be a man in order to sell, which is really sort of interesting in my mind because the majority, I think, of readers of MM fiction are women, and I
Mhm.
would be it just strikes me as counterintuitive. I would think that they'd want to read women as opposed to me, but everybody says that women, there are some women who feel like they have to be as a man. Have you ever felt that you had to hide who you were in order to publish your books?
Now, I've been around I published my first book 11 years ago. So when I started, it wasn't that I felt like I had to be someone else, but that if you sent something to be published, when they put your bio in, they would change the pronouns, making you male. Uh, and you couldn't, like, if you sent a book in and said, my name is Betty, they would change it to something that sounded male. And which, as BA, I didn't have to worry about that because BA is BA is BA. But I can see why people have pseudonyms, uh, because people want to have privacy. I don't know now that it's such a big issue whether or not you're male or female. I mean, maybe it is. I just don't worry about that all too much. I mean, this is fiction and it's romance. This is not, brain surgery. We're having a good time and we're spreading love. And, you know, sort of my philosophy on all things controversial is if you love it, keep it, and if you don't, leave it. And everybody needs to quit worrying so damn much.
I agree. I think that, like I said, I mean, it just strikes me as counterintuitive that you want, like, I can't imagine, like, I would say, oh, I must have a book written by a female because I don't like male writers. It's like, I don't even, when you look at the book, either it's good or it's bad, and
Right.
it doesn't matter whose name is on it, it's good or bad. And so,
Exactly.
but you
Yeah,
touched on it when you,
there's always going to be somebody who is pissed off for some reason that you don't have any control over. And so, I just I'm the luckiest woman in the whole wide world. I don't worry about the little stuff. I have the best job in the world. I'm married to the woman that I've loved for as long as I can, as long as my heart knows her. I mean, you know, life is good. I don't have time for nonsense.
okay, so let's move on to, what's a fun non-writing day? Do you have those for you?
Oh, sure. I quilt a lot and I knit a lot, and Miss Julie and I wander. We've only been in Albuquerque for a year, and so there's still so much we haven't seen, and so we spend a lot of time just goofing off, going, "Oh, look at that thing! Oh, look at that neat thing!" I mean, there's tons of things we haven't explored, and I've never not been a Texan, so everything is new. I got to see snow. I was like,
Did
"Oh."
you guys move to Albuquerque to get married?
No, actually, Miss Julia's daddy was real sick. He had terminal cancer, and he was from here, and he was going to have to move to assisted living. And so he said, "Girls, all I want is to go back to New Mexico." And I mean, how often do you get to give somebody their final request, right? This is my dying wish to move back. And so we said, "Well, sure, let's go." And I mean, we we knew in May we were going. We were here by June. He passed away in September a year ago, and by then we were here, and I love it. It's so different from what everything I know, and there's mountains and river. I mean, it's just this amazing, neat place, and the people are fabulous. And then December they went ahead and passed the gay marriage, and I said, I can't pay taxes to a state that doesn't believe that I'm a real person. So, and I mean, that's not the only reason that we're here, but it is one of the reasons we're here, that we stayed. But we
I
kind
know.
of stayed because it's neat.
We understand that. We moved out of Virginia because what we wanted to have, you know, our daughter. I mean, I don't give her name out online, so I mean,
Right,
let's just
right.
call my daughter. I mean, at the time we didn't know it was going to be a daughter, but we wanted to have our child, and they wouldn't recognize our marriage, and so we're looking now to move somewhere. I'm actually looking to retire from my day job. I know I'm not that old, but um, you know, it's time to just be a dad for a change,
Right,
and it's sort of limiting because we're looking at just states that accept it, and not
right.
because the courts told them to, because they wanted to. Like Maryland, where I live now, was the first state to officially pass it because our election was sooner than Washington's. Ours ended, but ours was the first state to actually pass it, and it's a different feeling.
Yeah, well, and I have to say that as far as the people here, I mean, I haven't had a single person be even chilly at us. I mean, everyone has been just like this is where we are and we're married and life is good. And I mean, it's, I went home to visit when my brother broke his neck in April. And I forgot, because I'd been here for damn near a year, I'd forgotten that you can't say things and you can't hold hands and you can't say, okay, babe, because that can not only get you, but your whole family in trouble. And it's amazing how fast you forget and you get used to having the same rights that everybody else does.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It does. It feels amazing.
Now you
I
get to
mean,
pay taxes, though, which you probably didn't know. You get to pay higher taxes because you're married.
that's okay.
We learned that the hard way, but we usually have the child offset, which helps a little bit.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so last question. I always do this with everybody in my written interviews, but it's all yours. You can talk about anything you want. You can talk to your readers. You can tell them anything, anything you want, as long as it's not too controversial.
Let's see. What would I want to tell people? I guess really, I mean, like hysterically, stupidly happy people. And I'm so grateful because I get to do what I want every day. I get to sit down and go, what happens if you rub this guy and this guy together, or this guy and this girl and this other guy? And I mean, who gets to do this? But every so often you just look around and go, okay, I live in the mountains. I'm married to the person I love. I have 2 great dogs. I have the best friend in the whole wide world. And I have this job. Oh my God. I don't know what I did right in a past life, but thank the Lord I did it. and a huge part of that is the readers. I mean, if you think about it, writing gave me everything because it brought me my wife. I fell in love with her writing before I fell in love with her. It brought me my best friend. My wife brought me here to this place that I love. So writing, I mean, everything is because I write romance. And every so often that just makes me stupid with joy.
Can never be
And
stupid with joy.
yeah, I am just incredibly grateful that folks believe and they read and they just let themselves be happy. That, if everybody could just spend a couple of minutes a day just being happier than they were the day before, the world would be a nicer place.
So are you going to go to anywhere? Where can anybody meet you? Are you going to GRL? Are you going to RWA? Are you going to RT?
I will be at the Dream Spinner Author meetup in February. I will be at RT in Dallas and the Austin Author Affair the week after. In both of those times, readers will get an opportunity to meet and have dinner with my daddy. If so, I'm going to have a raffle. My daddy has agreed to come and meet people. This is going to be fabulous. I can't wait. My daddy is a cowboy.
Well, let's face
and
it.
I can't wait to show him off.
readers
Yeah.
can't go to the Dream Spinner one, so that kind of doesn't count because that's
Oh,
just for all.
right. Yeah. I think my big ones next year. I mean, like I said, I'm going to take a whole big loop. I'm going to start at RT, and then I'm going to pick Andrew Gray up, and I'm going to take him to meet my daddy, and then we're going to go down to Austin and kind of do the Central Texas experience, and that'll be that Austin Author Affair. This is its first year, and so I'm tickled to be able to go home and eat Tex-Mex. I can't wait. I have a list of restaurants to go to.
Okay. Well, thank you. Went a bit longer than I expected, but that's good, right?
Yep. Well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much, and this will be available on YouTube, and what we'll do is we'll post it on my website and yours on, I think, October 6th. I don't think anybody's going to see this until October 6th, so there we go.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank